The night my neighbor disappeared. You'll never forget the night my neighbor vanished. The silence that settled over our small suburban street was suffocating, as if the world was holding its breath in anticipation of something terrible. Mr. Thompson had always been a peculiar figure in our neighborhood, a reclusive, old man who rarely left his house. He would often peer through his curtains, his gaze following us as we went about our lives. I always felt uneasy under his watchful eyes. That fateful night, a storm was brewing, with dark clouds swirling ominously overhead. I was settling in for the evening, scrolling through my phone while the wind howled outside. That's when I noticed the flickering light from Mr. Thompson's front porch. It flickered erratically, casting strange shadows across his yard. Curiosity piqued. I moved closer to the window, watching intently. Then I saw him. Mr. Thompson stood outside, rigid as a statue, staring into the darkness. The flickering light illuminated his face for a moment, and I caught a glimpse of sheer panic etched across his features. I felt a chill run down my spine. What was he doing out there? I contemplated calling the police, but dismissed it after all. He was just an old man. Later that night, as I lay in bed, the sound of sirens pierced the stillness. Confused, I rushed to my window, and horror washed over me as I saw police cars surrounding Mr. Thompson's house. I watched as officers moved in and out, their faces grim. It was clear something was terribly wrong. The next morning, I learned from neighbors that Mr. Thompson had been reported missing. Panic gripped me. I had seen him just the night before, but I hadn't thought to check on him. The police investigated, but no leads surfaced, and the case grew cold. Weeks passed, and life went on, but I felt a dark shadow hanging over my house. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Each night, I found myself glancing nervously out my window, waiting for anything to happen. Then, one night, I saw it again, the flickering light. My heart raced as I peered through the curtains. There he was, Mr. Thompson, standing on his porch, staring directly at me. His eyes were wide, almost pleading. I felt a mix of fear and sympathy. What had happened to him? I dialed the police, panic rising in my chest. "He's outside. Mr. Thompson is back," I cried. But the officer's voice was skeptical. "We haven't found him. It's been weeks." I hung up, trembling, unsure if I was losing my mind. Then came the knock. Late at night, it echoed through my house, sending ice through my veins. I crept toward the door, heart pounding. Peering through the peephole, I saw him, Mr. Thompson, smiling. But his eyes were hollow. "Let me in," he called, his voice dripping with something sinister. I stumbled back, frozen with fear. "I'm not home," I shouted, my voice shaking. "Open the door. I've been looking for you." I could hear the desperation in his tone, the madness lurking beneath.